All right, the next area we're going to go into is the more in processes. So if you click on processes, now we got a bunch in here for Silverleaf, but there are some that we would recommend that you create for your system. So, but you once you get the processes down and you kind of understand how they work, the possibilities here are endless. You can make it do all kinds of stuff. So these are just some things that we triggered here in Silverleaf, but I'm going to take you over into another account that we've actually set up for a provider. So give me just a second to log in to that other account. I'm going to pause the video and restart it to get to the other account. Okay, so now we're back. These are the templates that we normally set up for providers. So I'll explain to you what they all are first, and then I'll go in to the individual ones and show you how to set these up on your side. So what processes do are they are an automation in the back of Intake Queue in order for you to trigger your task list to do something here. So whether it's your task list, someone else in your organization's task list, it could be multiple tasks that happen on one specific thing that happened in the system, and you'll get a better understanding when we go through these. But these are some of the great automations that Intake you can do that is very customizable to your system. So these are the most common ones. So for example, so when the patient cancels the appointment, is it's going to put a process up here on your task list that says, hey, this appointment was canceled. Do they need a no-show fee assessed? The same thing happens with missed appointment. It just toggles you up here to let you know, hey, this patient missed their appointment. Do they need a no-show, not a cancellation, a no-show? The good faith estimate here is this is triggered off of our intake form. So when you have the intake form and the patient says, I do not have insurance or I do not wish to use my insurance, when they check that little box, it's going to automatically send someone a notification that says this patient needs a good faith estimate. Lab results. So this one we have this one hooked to your lab order sheet. That the moment that you submit or sign and submit that note, it's going to put a task on the task list up here that says, "Hey, you got labs pending." Like I said, I'm going to go into each one of these in a second. The Medicare is a secondary payer, so if you take Medicare, you should be assessing if their Medicare is their primary or secondary. So this is also attached to a form. So when the patient does the intake form and they say they have Medicare, then it's going to put a task up here that says, "Hey, this patient has Medicare. Send them this form." This is a questionnaire form, so it cannot be attached to your intake form. Otherwise, we'd have it attached there and they just fill it out when they check the box. But you can't attach questionnaires to questionnaires. So we have it set up this way just for someone to send that to them. And I'll show you what a task looks like at the end as well. Suicidal ideation and also the violent ideation. When the patient fills out their intake form and they check the box that they are feeling suicidal or they check the box that they're feeling violent, it's going to put a task on the task list up here to let you or someone else know that, hey, this patient's feeling suicidal or homicidal. You might want to know that if the patient's coming into your office, right? If they're feeling either way. And then this last one here is super bill. So if the patient says, I do not, I'm not in network, or you're just a cash pay provider, and and they say that they need a super bill, the moment they check the box that they're going to need a super bill, it will trigger a task up here for someone to send a super bill. Because we know that all providers don't finish their notes immediately sometimes. So this just kind of helps you remember that you need to finish that note on that patient so that you can send them a super bill. So let's go into each one of these so you know how to create them for your system. So basically, let me just create a new one down here so you can kind of see the process. So when you click new, it's going to come up untitled. So you're going to put a title in here, and we're going to call this one appointment canceled. And then you check the little box. And now you got that. You're going to go to the task first, and you're going to open the task. The task description is whatever you want to name it. So we call it appointment canceled. You can make it whatever priority you want. So if it's high priority, whatever, we just make it normal. You can assign it to a specific person. You can have it go to the provider that's associated with the client. You can have it go to your front office person, or a specific owner of the client. So usually this one is sent to a specific person, like a virtual assistant. If you're the only provider in the system, then you would just say, um, assign it to you, right there. If you are wanting to assign it to the practitioner, then it's just going to pick whatever practitioner is on that patient, and it's going to send them that. If you assign to the client owner, that's going to be the owner, kind of similar to the practitioner on the chart. And then leave unassigned, I don't recommend you do that. So it needs to be assigned to somebody. Otherwise, it's just on a task list for somebody to do. And who is that somebody, right? So usually a specific user and then the provider, especially if it's just you in the system, right? There's a difference between the two dates here. And sometimes I get a little turned around on these, but this is when the task is created. So if a patient cancels the appointment, immediately it's going to send a notification, same day, same time, and you can edit these, right? You can say 1 day out, um, 15 minutes after, whatever you want to set this to. I usually, if I'm wanting something to go out immediately when something happens, I just do same day, same time. The task source date. So this is used in scenarios that is especially useful for appointments. So in the appointment booked event, the source date is the appointment date. So if you wanted something to happen on the appointment date, then you would have something, you would trigger it that way. But most of the time it's going to be creation date. Once you do that, you click save the task. Now you're going to go into the automation. So what's going to make this happen? Okay, so it's the trigger is what they call it. So you click the trigger, and what happens here? And so these are all the things that you can create a process automation to trigger off on. So on this one, we want it to trigger because the appointment's canceled. The appointment missed one the exact same way, except you change that. Um, and some of the other ones we're going to go through, we don't use all of these, but you can only imagine all the different things that you could utilize these for. But for this one, we're going to say when the appointment is canceled, and it's going to ask you the condition. So what practitioners is this going to happen for? If it's all of them, then you just leave it all there. It's going to automatically do all of them. And if it's for all services, then you just leave it at all services. Now, if you're creating things to happen based on different services, then you would change that here, right? Or different providers, you may want it to behave in a different way. But for right now, we're saying that all appointments for all services, for all practitioners, when that appointment is canceled, do this thing. Okay, so it's going to put that task on the task list, basically. So we're going to click Save Automation. Now I'm going to delete this one because I already have one here, but I'm going to show you what this looks like. So we're going to go over into the booking calendar, and I'm just going to create an appointment, and we're going to save it, and now we're going to cancel it. So when the appointment is marked as canceled, confirm cancellation. Now, sometimes it takes a second for this to pop up. Oh, it popped up pretty quickly. This is what that process did. So the moment that appointment was canceled, it says the appointment was canceled. Does the patient need a late cancellation fee assessed? And I forgot to show you where that is, but I'll show you when we go back over and into the process. So in tasks here, you can go directly into the patient's chart, right? You can click into the task itself and put in information. Maybe we knew that was going to pop up, and I'm trying to communicate to my front office staff that I don't no appointment, no charge should be assessed. I can say no charge, please, or whatever. Click save comment, and now let's put that charge that comment in there. And you can see the different activity, like what triggered it. If anybody's commented and done anything in there, it'll put that in there. You can also change the date of when this is due. You can go into the patient's chart as well. You can edit the task here. So maybe I've got the task, but I wanted to send it to my front office person. I can change the assignment here, make it another priority. I can put some notes in here, just save the task. But you can do a lot of stuff from the task here. Go to the patient's chart. If you need to edit when it's due, you can also change that. You can delete the task altogether. Now, once it's done, right? I've either charged the patient or whatever. I just check the box that I did it. Now, when you're the admin on the account and you want to see everybody else's tasks, you can see those here. You can also create tasks on the fly. So maybe you need to call um, the parole officer, it's called PO on the patient. You can assign it to a specific person. Maybe you put the PO's number in here. You get the idea. And then you can save that as just a task. It's just a general task. You do not have to associate it with a patient if you don't want to, but once you've done it, you just check it off and it's done. So all these processes that we are creating right now, what's what it does. It puts those tasks on your task list. Um, and I'm going to go back in here and show you what this is where the note was. So on the task description, it said appointment canceled, but underneath it, it said, does the patient need a late cancellation fee assessed? So it's just to trigger you to remember, does that need to be done? If it doesn't, check it off. So that's the canceled. The next one is the same thing. It's appointment missed, right? So we go in and you set it up the same way. So I'm going to click on it so that you can see what needs to be set up there. Type it out, appointment missed, whatever priority. Assign it to the practitioner associated with the event. And again, you could make it a specific user if you wanted to. The task creation date. I'm going to toggle this just so that you can see. See, the only thing it changes here is the task source date. Change it back to the creation. And then, does this patient need a no-show assessed? Then the automation, click into the automation. Add this if the appointment is missed, all practitioners, all services, and then save your automation. Now you have your missed appointment automation. So you're going to click new every time, change the name, appointment missed, and set those things up. Now you can also have automations that do multiple things. So if you wanted to create an automation that says every time a new patient schedules, so I'll show you what that looks like, new patient. Maybe you want to do, let's do this, onboard new patient. The task is going to be start onboarding. Actually, I'm going to think about all the different tasks that happen. Paperwork for completion. And then we'll assign this. Let's say we're going to assign that to the front office person. I'm not going to assign it to Rachel because I don't want her to get notified, but you assign it to a specific person because you're wanting this person to make sure they're following all of these tasks that happen the moment the patient schedules a new patient appointment. Does that make sense? So, um, so you want this to happen the moment that the appointment was created, though, not on the time of the appointment. So the moment the appointment was created, and you're going to say, check patient intake and consents for completion. Now we're going to save this task. Now we're going to add a new task, and we're going to say check insurance. Now maybe this needs to go to your biller, and I know it didn't spell eligibility right there. Maybe this needs to go to your biller, right? You can put high priority on it. You can assign it to a specific user, pick your biller over here, and then check insurance. And so we can have different things that happen, right? Call patient for the, collect copay, call patient, whatever your different steps are for onboarding a new patient. And the automation, so you're adding a trigger saying that when an appointment is booked by the patient, now see, it's going to ask you what appointment. So if we say it's an initial, an online initial or an initial, in-office initial. So anytime one of these appointments are scheduled, and it doesn't matter which provider, because we're going to say all practitioners, anytime they book an appointment for an initial eval or an in-office eval, make this automation happen. Okay, so we'll put that in process. Let's go over into the bookings. Create an appointment. It's going to be initial eval. And I do recommend you test them. Anytime you create a process, test it and make sure it's doing what you want it to do. Because sometimes I've messed up even and created something that did something I didn't want it to do. And now it's sending that out to everybody, right? So make sure that you test it and it's doing what exactly you wanted it to do. So now I'm going to click save. Now those two things should be popped up over here on my task list. It's taking a second. It wasn't initial. Yes. Oh, did I save that process? Well, go back over here to processes. Maybe I didn't save it. Oh, I didn't assign it to anyone. That's why. Now that should work. We're going to go back in and cancel this appointment so that I can reschedule it. Now, it should happen. Maybe it's because I've already scheduled her in an online appointment. Well, this is a very good learning opportunity. Why is this one not working? Oh, it is booked by client. That's why. So, see the difference here. Appointment is created. This is when an appointment books online. So we're going to say appointment is created. And that will make it happen. So see, even I have to play with things sometimes. So now we're going to go back over to Crystal Test. I'm going to delete this patient. Going to get that cancellation notice again. See new patient appointment. Now it worked. So we're going to delete this one because we've already done it. But now we have check paperwork for completion, check insurance eligibility and benefits. These are tasks for my front office person or even for you as a provider to kind of keep you on check. Did you do these things for that person? So we don't set this up usually in our normal setup just because not all providers are functioning the same way, but you get the idea on how you can create multiple tasks within one thing that happened and make those tasks go to different people and create them with different priorities and all that kind of stuff. And if someone's out, maybe your front office person is out and you need to assign it to someone else, you can just come in here and assign it to another person to take over for those. So I'm going to take these out. I'm going to go back over to processes. I'm going to remove this one. So delete the process. The next one is the good faith estimate. So Intake Q has a good faith estimate in there, but it is not everything that CMS wanted it to be. So you should have one on all the forms that we are giving to you for your setup. You will have a good faith estimate. So basically, this is telling you it's the highest priority because you have to send a good faith estimate out when a patient books an appointment with you, like before you see them. You're supposed to send the good faith estimate out. So you're supposed to, it's saying assign it to the practitioner associated with the event. However, once you get a front office person, you would want to change this to assign it to a specific user and make it go to the front office person. But right now, she just got it going to her. Again, the task creation date, same day, same time. Patient needs a good faith estimate sent prior to the first appointment. So you want to set it up just like that. Save the task. Oh, you would change the name, right? So create new, change the name, set up the task. Then the automation for this task is going to be you're going to trigger the process when the rule is met. So this is a little different. We have not created the rule in the form. So you can't set this one up until you go back into the form and create the rule. So let me show you what creating a rule in the form looks like. So go to My Forms, and we're going to go to the good faith estimate. Actually, not the good faith estimate, I'm sorry. It triggers off the patient intake form. So in the rule, and we haven't really covered rules yet, there's a lot of rules in this form that make it do what it does, all the fancy stuff, including that little process I'm showing you. So here's the rule for that process. It says that if the type of what type of insurance do you have, and they click I do not want to use insurance, then trigger process automation good faith estimate. So what does that look like when you create it? You say create new rule. If the answer to question, scroll down, find that insurance question right here. What type of insurance do you have? Equals, I do not wish to use my insurance. Then trigger process automation, good faith estimate. So you have to create the good faith estimate over there, just the initial process, that very first part, but you cannot create the trigger until you've set the rule up over here. So that's kind of a two-part one. So then you would check the good faith estimate, click save. Now there's another rule that triggers that as well, and that is if the patient says they do not have insurance. So IntakeQ does not have the way to say, if this is answered a certain way, then do this or this or this. They don't have that. It's a one question type of rule. So if the answer to this is this, then do question that we have this set up to is, do you have insurance? I think, yeah. Do you have any type of insurance? If they say no, then trigger process automation, good faith estimate, save. I know this is already built in, so I'm not going to save it, but those are your two rules over here. So now you would go back to your processes, go back into your good faith estimate one, and then set the automation. So what that would look like, actually this rule, I'm sorry, you wouldn't set the automation. This is automatically going to happen because it is looking for those triggers to happen. So that's why if you click on it, see how you can't edit it? You may want to say add new trigger and say when the form is submitted with any practitioner, and then you put the patient intake form on here. If you do this and you have it set like that, then every time that form is submitted, you're going to get a task, and that is not what you want. You only want it to send you the task if the patient checks the box a certain way. So that's why it's set up like this, because it is attached. See how it tells you the trigger can only be edited in the form template rule editor. That's where we were creating that rule. Okay, so you got good faith estimate down. The next one is lab results. So this one, create new lab results. Then you're going to come in here and say lab results. You can say lab results pending, call it whatever you want to here, but watch for lab results. It's high priority. Want to know when that happens, whoever the patient is associated with, or if you have a front office person maybe that's watching for your labs, send that to your administrator, whatever. On the creation date, same day, same time, because we want it to be triggered automatically. The moment you submit that note template and you sign it and you send it to the patient, we want the task to immediately populate your task list. So this is the task note. Be on the lookout for lab results already ordered. And you click save the task. Now we got to make the automation, right? So we're going to go to automation. I'm going to open it up. We say when the note is locked, because it's a note template, and I'll show you where that note template is here in a second. So when this note template is locked for all practitioners, what note is it? And I'll show you the note. So every time that note is locked, signed and locked, you're going to get that process that goes up. So I'm going to cancel this one, go over to my forms and show you what that looks like. It's this little guy right here, the lab diagnostic test order. So let's go into test patient and show you what that looks like. Create new note, laboratory diagnostic test order. So it's going to pull over all your patient information. If the test patient had put in their insurance, that would pull over too. You're going to go in and enter in all your information. Is it lab or diagnostic or both? So we're going to say it was lab. They're going to be fasting. Did they do it for drug monitoring? Yes or no? If they say yes, then you get this code that pops in and you get the list of your drug levels. If you say no, you don't see those things. Your diagnoses would populate over because you'd have diagnoses from your other note. What other labs that you're ordering? I'm just going to check a few here. Your call results or fax the results, or if you want to send them somewhere else, maybe primary care. You check your name and then you sign it. Now it tells me, hey, make sure you sign the note or save the note. And so now I have locked that note. And if I go over here, lab results. Be on the lookout for lab results pending. Now this is helpful. Maybe I'm your front office assistant, right? And have checked on the labs, but no labs have been done. So called lab and no results. So that's how that process would work. Once they've gotten the lab results and they've uploaded them into the chart and they're done, then you just check the box off. Another process is the Medicare as a secondary payer. So we talked a little bit about this one. This is going to be highest, right, because it needs to go out pretty quickly. We call it Medicare as a secondary payer. It's going to go to the provider just because she's the only person there. When it was created, patient needs a Medicare secondary payer form sent prior to the first appointment. Save task. So that form is being triggered by the consent form, the intake form, consent form, when the patient checks the box that they have Medicare. So go to preview. Oh, I gotta check it. Hold on a second. Check adults. Right. Yes, they have insurance. What insurance? When they say they have Medicare here, then it's going to trigger that process automation. So the rule is built here. If the answer to the question, what insurance do you have, is Medicare, then trigger process automation, Medicare secondary payer, and then click save. So once you do that, it's going to populate again that task that says patient needs a Medicare secondary payer form. The next one is suicidal ideation. So this one again is triggered based off of that form. So when the patient answers the question that are you feeling suicidal, boom, task goes to your task list based on this automation. So suicidal ideation, create new, call it suicidal ideation. This is what you're going to put into your box. Save task. Your automation is coming from the form. So you go back to my forms and click patient intake. Oh, sorry. Go to your rules, create new rule or add new rule. If the answer to, gets up here, currently suicidal equals yes, then trigger process automation, suicidal ideation, click save. And then that's what creates, oh, not there, hold on. It's not what I wanted. That's what creates this process here. Trigger this process when the form rule is met, when the form thing happens and we set the rule over there for it to trigger. The exact same thing happens with the violent ideation. So, and the super bill. So I'm going to take you over there. I'll show you these squares so that you can set them up for your system. So we're going to go back into tasks. This is how you would set up your suicidal ideation one. If you want to pause it for a second. Then the automation is going to just happen from you setting up the rule that I showed you. Super bill. Again, it's going to be triggered off of that rule over there. You just have to set the task up here first. So create a new one, add it super bill, and then fill out this information. You can even put send super bill here, whatever. Patient needs a super bill. Save the task. And then violent ideation, same thing, add new, name it violent ideation, tasks, call it whatever you want to here, associate it, name the thing here, click save task. Now on all three of these, you would not create the automation because the automation is going to be created where? In the rules section in the form. So we go back to my forms and you go back to the rules here and we click create new rule. If the answer to currently feeling violent is yes, maybe even you might want to say unsure, you might want to know, then trigger process automation, violent ideation, save. Okay, so the same way as we did the suicidal one, just the violent ideation. And I'll show you the same rule for the super bill. So if, right here, what type of insurance do you have? And it says, wait, no, it's not that one. Hold on. Do you need us to send you a super bill for your out-of-network benefits? Yes. Trigger process automation, super bill, save. Now you go back and you check your processes to make sure that the automations are showing up in the background, which they should be. So that's how you set up ideations. Now, when you look at the automation area back here, just like create a new one so you can see the automations. You can create these process automations on all types of things. So when a form is submitted, so let's get an example. Maybe you're not using the online screener, right? And you decide you want to use a form instead. Then you could have it trigger an automation the moment that form is submitted. Maybe you've got some kind of screener that you're doing online and you're like, hey, I want to know if somebody turns in one of those screeners. You could create a process that would tell you if they did or not. When an appointment was created, I showed you that one already. When the appointment is confirmed, you could do something with that. I'm trying to think what you might do. I don't know what you would do on that one, honestly. When an appointment is booked, so depending on whether it's a follow-up appointment or a new patient appointment, you could, um, definitely create stuff off of that. An appointment is completed. So if you want someone to do something when the appointment is done, maybe they need something simple or specifically sent to them. A person needs to do a task associated with that appointment is completed. Could trigger that. Canceled, missed, we already went over those. If the auto charge fails, maybe you want to notify someone that the auto charge failed on a patient. If a recurring payment fails, so this is if you have your payment plans set up and one of those things fail, you could have somebody notified. And then anytime a note is locked. So this could be helpful. Let's just say you have maybe all notes are being reviewed by somebody. I guess it would be a good example. When the note is locked, and you could say the specific note, whatever that note is, right? Then it could notify somebody. So maybe supervisors want to know every time a note is locked, they need to go in there and look at it. There's probably a better way to do that, but I'm just trying to give you some examples of some things that you could do here. So the automations, the process automations, a lot of different things you can do here. Now, you can't tell it to send an email based on something that happened in here. Unfortunately, not yet, but there are some email messages, and we'll go over those in a different video that you can trigger things to happen after appointments and that kind of thing. But these are just these automations, the intake you can do in the background. And like I said, you saw the first list with Silverleaf. I have probably 30 different things happening in there on different forums and stuff like that. So this can really get extensive when you're playing around with it. But these are the most common, or these are all the ones that we set up for providers currently when we do their system. Let us know if you have any questions. If you find a really cool process that you figured out how to set up, let us know. We like to see all the new ideas that people come up with, and we are here to help any step of the way. If you get in here and you get confused, we do offer help meetings, and we can walk you through these processes too. So, all right, on to the next video.